Welcome to Fact or Inexact. The name's Angel, and this crime's for you. 14-year-old Alice was awakened by smoke that silently crept into her lungs, stealing her breath. His home was nearly engulfed in flames, and she was trapped in her room. All she could see was fire, and all she could hear were screams. Alice's mind and body were in such shock that she couldn't even hear the sirens, let alone the neighbor that was about to make an attempt to help her to safety by breaking her window. Instead, Alice snapped out of her trance and charged towards her window and all the way out of it. Alice's escape from her window caused her neighbor to lose his life. He was on a ladder because she was trapped on the second floor. The fall caused him to break his neck as others watched in terror, including his wife and children. Alice was frantically screaming and struggling to get to her feet, but her ankle was broken in 2 places. She was badly cut with lacerations on her face and arms. Rescue personnel rushed to her aid, but immediately after she caught a glimpse of her neighbor's body, Alice fainted. She woke up in the hospital the next morning and learned that her father had tragically passed away while trying to make his way to her room after he successfully evacuated her siblings and her mother. Alice's mother only had minor injuries, while the boys suffered from smoke inhalation. Alice's room was at the back of the 5-bedroom home, which made it difficult to get to her, especially given that her hallway was already overtaken by fire. But like a truly loving father, he didn't give up on saving his daughter. It was a real tragedy that they weren't able to save Alice, but inevitably, she ended up saving her own life. It's a shame that her neighbor's heroic actions cost him his life. The night of the fire killed 2 fathers, but finding out what happened to her father the next morning deeply hurt Alice's soul. Just shy of 3 years later, Alice started working at one of the first McDonald's. She kept busy, always went above and beyond, was very welcoming to everyone who crossed paths with her. Her attitude, work ethics, and pride paid off over time because she made her way to manager a couple of years later. Business was getting real busy, and they decided to hire a few new employees. Alice was able to partake in the hiring process, and she decided on a well-groomed, tall and slim young man by the name of Hamilton. Some of the female employees said that Hamilton was the most handsome man there. And clearly Alice thought as much because she hired him right on the spot. Hamilton was amazing. He fit right in, and he went above and beyond to earn brownie points with everyone, especially Alice. Alice was shy about relationships, and being in the presence of guys made her completely uncomfortable. But things were different with Hamilton. She was able to grow comfortable with him because he spent most of his time with her. He spent more time with Alice than anyone else. After all, Hamilton would volunteer to assist Alice in closing the restaurant. In fact, he started closing with Alice every night. Like a true gentleman, Hamilton walked Alice from the door of McDonald's and all the way to the door of her home. Alice had been dating Hamilton for months, and she was head over heels for him. She became so infatuated with Hamilton that she started to lose focus on the choir and even missed a few rehearsals. That's not like her. As in most cases, that caused some rumors to start circulating, and the general consensus was that Alice and Hamilton had become sexually involved. I guess you can't miss choir rehearsal for anyone but the Lord, or else you'll be accused of sinning in some sort of way. Alice's brothers even believed the hype, but she only realized it when they started teasing her one morning. Her brothers were in their teens also, and they were pretty well-rounded and popular. With their charm and good looks, despite being religious, her brothers were experienced for their age. I guess their hormones spoke to them louder than their pastor? That wasn't the case for Alice because she was truly taking things slow. Alice became infuriated that her brothers could think of her like that, and she loudly defended her honor, as well as the respect that Hamilton kept for her. She yelled at them that Hamilton was a better guy than them because, in fact, he refused to deflower any woman until marriage. Hamilton was the perfect God-fearing man for Alice. She didn't care who laughed at him for maintaining his virtue, because that's exactly what Alice wanted for herself. So she moved as slow as she wanted to. And apparently, Hamilton was matching her pace. Hamilton started taking Alice to the drive-in theater. It opened up a few weeks prior, and they made their way there for the first time. They enjoyed their trip there so much that they made it a ritual to visit there every Saturday. Hamilton would pick her up in his mother's car, and they would enjoy the movie in great atmosphere in the sunny California weather. One Saturday, while on their movie date, Hamilton and Alice were holding hands and showing affection. Naturally, when they turned back towards the screen, they noticed a man peering at them in disbelief. The young man then stormed off in a fit of rage. Before Alice could ask Hamilton if he knew the man, he had already answered her question, stating he was a friend. He was his friend. Okay. Then he got up and chased after the man. Although Alice was left in utter confusion, she sat patiently waiting for Hamilton to return. But when Hamilton was gone too long, Alice took it upon herself to go check on Hamilton. "I'm with you, Alice." She figured she would find them arguing. But instead, she saw them locked in a kiss. Anybody else taken back? Alice went on with the night and pretended she never left her spot. She's a good actor. She was in shock and she didn't know how to address what she witnessed. Instead, Alice brought it up the next night at closing when she was alone with Hamilton. He didn't deny what she saw, and he didn't even try to apologize to Alice. The only thing Hamilton said was, "Don't tell anyone." But Alice hadn't thought of telling a soul because she wanted to spare herself the embarrassment. Understandable. However, in that moment, Alice felt all of the hurt raining down on her at once. So Alice figured she would tell someone after all. And who better than the pastor of her church? Alice knew the pastor since she was a little girl, and she had only grown closer to him over the years since her father's tragic end. She thought that if she confided in him, then he could talk to Hamilton. I'm not sure what she thought talking was going to do. Turn him straight? I don't know. I guess he was supposed to convince him to fall on his knees. But for her, instead of that guy? Alice decided to tell Hamilton in that moment about her plans to tell her pastor. Hamilton was adamant about keeping his secret. But Alice didn't take him serious until he started chasing her around the kitchen. Alice circled around the counters while pleading for her life. But Hamilton wasn't letting up. He had also made up his mind about his plans to kill her. Alice grabbed the closest thing she could find to help her get away. She tossed a handful of flour in his eyes before she grabbed a knife. Hamilton was temporarily blinded, but little did Alice know he had already grabbed a knife. As soon as he heard Alice near him, he stabbed her in the shoulder. Hamilton pierced her shoulder with so much force that the knife broke in half. But Alice continued to fight for her life. And by the time Hamilton regained his eyesight, she stabbed him in his neck, severing his jugular. Within minutes, the philandering Hamilton was dead. Alice had killed her boyfriend and her employee all in one night. Thanks for being criminal-minded till the end, and keep coming back again and again and again. Also, be sure to beat on that heart button and murder the comments for a chance to be mentioned in the next video opening. Thumbs up this video. Don't forget to subscribe and share.